Hey there! Welcome to my gardening journal. My name's Lena and I'm a novice gardener who's been gardening for about 3 years. If there's one thing I could say about my gardening experience so far, is that it can be expensive if you allow yourself to get carried away. So in 2019, when I decided to jump in with both feet into the world of plants for the first time, I read about the differences between annuals and perennials, and I decided that perennials would be my absolute go-to choice when it comes to choosing plants for my garden, because they seem like such a good long-term investment, right? Whereas like these annuals kind of seem like a waste of money because they would only last for one season. So even though I said that and I promised myself that I would stay away from the annuals, I would find myself at the garden center being so drawn and taken with these bright and bold colors that the annual flowers had to offer. So that year, I sank a whole lot of my money into annuals, only to be heartbroken in the fall when they started to die and not come back the following year. So when the spring of 2020 arrived, you would think that I became a little smarter, right? Nope, I made the same mistake. But in 2020, I got a little smarter. I found ways to save myself some money by learning how to propagate and overwinter these guys, so that in the following year, I would have free plants and more plants waiting for me, depending on how hard I want to work. So today, we're gonna talk about how to do just that. Okay, let's save ourselves some money. So what I have right here is annual geraniums or pelargonium. This is one of those annuals that I have to have in my garden because it adds such a nice pop of color to a sunny spot. And even when it's not flowering, I love just looking at its foliage. Just look at how green and healthy looking that is. Okay, so what you would want to do is go out and find yourself like a nice healthy sturdy stem that is about the size of a pencil, like this. And you would take like a couple of inches long of a cutting. Like this one stands at maybe 4 inches. Actually, you guys, let's go outside so that I can show you a little better. Okay, so this is my container of pelargoniums. In here I have white and orange. So ideally you want to take cuttings from a stem that hasn't flowered, but you can see here that this container is full of stems that are kind of in the process of flowering. This is the 3rd week of October, by the way, and these guys are still going strong, and that's one of the reasons I'm so in love with annual geraniums. So this container is probably not a good time to take cuttings from right now. Luckily, I have another container on the left side of my patio, and I think this one is probably better to take cuttings from. So I see one stem here, for example, this one. It hasn't flowered, and I don't see any flower buds on them. So this is kind of a really good stem to take cuttings from. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and reach down to about a couple of inches and then cut from there. So once you have a cutting that is nice and healthy, what you want to do next is you want to strip off all of the bottom leaves. You don't need those. You don't want this stem to send all of its energy up to nurture these leaves. So you want to get rid of these. And you want to leave maybe just a pair of small leaves, you know, like 2 to 3. I've seen people take all of the leaves off, and that works as well. But for me, I like to leave a little bit, like maybe like tiny little leaves on top. If you take one that has flower buds like this one here, you want to strip that off as well, because that is a lot of energy wasted. Okay, so you want to be left with like nice bare stem like this with just a couple of leaves. And then a little bit different than what I would do with my coleus cuttings. With my coleus cuttings, I would stick them in a glass of water and wait a couple of weeks for them to root. But with these guys, I stick them into potting soil right away. So I start with a super small pot, because I want to be able to see the roots after a couple of weeks. So what I do is I just take a pot with potting soil, and I don't even buy new soil, you guys. These guys are not fussy at all. I've been recycling my soil ever since 2019. Maybe I just added a little bit of compost, you know, like here and there. But so yeah, and then you want to pat that down a little, and you want to keep this soil nice and moist for a couple of weeks, and it should root nicely for you. I keep my cuttings in one of the upstairs rooms. This room has a south-facing window, so it's pretty bright, and that's what pelargoniums love, bright sunny spots. Sometimes you'll see that some of the leaves on the cuttings are wilting or turning yellow and maybe even dying. This is normal. Some plants go through like transplant shock. I would maybe wait like 3 to 4 weeks to see if they survive. And from now on, my work is done for now. I would come and check on the pots every 4 or 5 days and make sure they don't dry out. Last year, I did exactly the same thing that I'm doing now, and let me show you my results from last year. So about 4 weeks from now, all these little pots should be filled with roots like this one here. Because I'm not doing this for commercial purposes and I don't need to rely on 100% success rate, I don't use rooting hormones or any type of special soil or anything like that. And from 30 to 40 cuttings that I took, I may have lost about 5 to 6 to rot, or maybe the cuttings weren't strong enough to begin with, or whatever, I'm not sure, but it was okay. I took a lot of cuttings to make sure that I had enough in the end. And from here, I would transplant them into slightly bigger pots, and I would line up my windowsills of pretty much every single room in my house with my pelargoniums or coleus plants. Doesn't matter what direction the window is facing. These plants will take off beautifully from here. And from now, it's kind of up to you if you want to them to grow really big, or for them to like produce a lot of flowers. You can fertilize. For me, I didn't fertilize these guys at all, and I think my soil was already somewhat fertile because some of them grew really, really big. With these flowers, some of them like flower on really long stems, which make them perfect for the vase. They last more than just a few days too, I might add. They make the Pacific Northwest gloomy winters that much more bearable. In terms of cold hardiness, these guys are annuals, but they are one of these like hardy annuals. You can bring them out as early as April when it's about 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And they will flower right away. Seriously, what's not to love about pelargoniums? They flower consistently from April all the way through almost November. With the amount that I use in my garden, if I were to buy these guys every year, it would probably cost me about $150 to $200, even if I buy in bulk from Costco. So every year for 3 years now, I've been saving myself some money while having fun experimenting with, plant propagation. So let's see. Today is October 21st of 2021 that I'm doing this video, and I want to show you that some of my pelargoniums are still going strong. Like these guys, for example, I keep them in these containers on the left side of my garden, and as you can see, like the hostas kind of behind them are already like on their way out, but the pelargoniums are still like going on strong, still carrying on the show. And I have another container that I keep like on the far side of the garden. It's still giving me a pop of color over in the corner as well. I really love this plant. What else can I tell you about pelargoniums? And they love sunny spots. Give them a lot of sun. They really love that. Water maybe like once a week. If in a smaller container, I water twice a week because they tend to dry out faster. Because they're annuals, you can fertilize them, as much as you can, as long as you don't over fertilize. They will flower consistently nonstop, like for almost 8 months. They're perfect. I've just been having so much fun with these flowers, and I thought I'd share my experience with you all. If you decide to do this, I wish you much success. So bye-bye for now, and happy gardening.